July 79.
Oh, wow. What was the scene like?
Well, it was the Comedy Connection.
The little one downstairs.
No,
was still there?
no, it was on Warrenton Street. It was street level. That was the first one.
Before Nick's.
Before Nick's.
So it was the same comedy store, or excuse me, the same one that was the Charles Playhouse, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You got straight in.
Yeah.
And it was right in there.
It was an amazing room.
Yeah, little, like...
150 people probably?
I don't even think that many. Maybe 100, maybe 90.
Tiny
that was the first.
Ceiling? Yeah.
Yeah, low. That's where I went to see an open mic there, and then I thought, what I was doing is I was, into comedy from watching The Tonight Show. That's when I really got like, oh, these comedians, Carl and Robert Klein, all these guys. I had to watch The Tonight Show because my brother was older than me, and we had to watch what he wanted. So I started watching, then I started to like it. And then I heard that there was a club in town, and I thought, I should go down. I was 16 when I really was into it, but then when I was about 23, I heard of the club, and I thought, well, maybe I gotta go try it out. I mean, I wouldn't have to move to Los Angeles or New York, and my character then, I couldn't have, 23, I'm not gonna move to Los Angeles. It was that was too much for me. So I went to the Comedy Connection, and I watched a show, and then I learned that there was the open mic nights was every Wednesday. So then I thought, I'm going to go back in 2 weeks.
Do you remember your first set?
I don't remember. I remember the first joke but I don't remember the rest of it. I said I went into a bookstore, and I started talking to this very French-looking girl. She was a bilingual illiterate. She couldn't read in 2 different languages. And
that's how you started?
Yeah. I had about 3 minutes.
So did you always write in that style? Like the sort of non sequitur, absurdist?
No, see, I didn't even write anything until I went to the watched the show, and when I knew I was going back in 2 weeks, during that 2 weeks, I wrote things, but I had never written comedy at all.
Right, but when you first started writing comedy, it was always that style?
It was about 70% like that. There was more like normalish. And I don't know why it came out like that. I mean... I was influenced by Carlin talking about everyday little things, and that's what I said, I'm going to do that. And then the structure of a joke was from listening to Woody Allen's stand-up albums. But that's just how it came out, with those two influences, plus my own mind.
Your writing process must be, like, you have a very difficult style to write for, I would imagine. Because your style it's non sequiturs, and they're very, like, a lot of it's very absurd. Like, is it hard to, like, when you write, do you sit in front of a computer? Do you just come up with ideas as you're walking around? Like, what's your process?
In the beginning, I would sit down and look at the paper, like look for a word to jazz my mind or look for something, and I would try to find jokes on purpose in the first 6 months. And then after that, like I had this thing once, I was looking through the paper, and it was an advertisement for electrolysis. And I thought, what an interesting word. Just the sound of the word, what it means, both things it want. What the hell? Like, so I made a note of that. And then, I don't know, my mind, because your subconscious is like a factory. It's working when you don't even know that it is. You're minding your own business. You're in line doing something that's this just in.
Yeah.
and it was, what my mind did with that was I had this thing about living in an apartment building where they allowed pets, and I had a pony. I had a Shetland pony named Nicky, and he was once involved in a bizarre electrolysis accident. All the hair was removed except for the tail. Now I rent him out to Hare Krishna family picnics. And that whole thing came because I saw the word electrolysis. So I would try to find things on purpose, but then after a while, my mind was, I would just notice things, because I think comedy, all art is based on noticing what's around you. And my mind, like I drew a lot. I know that you used to draw too.
Mm-hmm.
And, I would draw realistically in high school and stuff. And like if you were going to draw this cup and the two shapes, and then you notice, if you're trying to draw it real, this shape, and then there's the shape that's in between. That's also a shape, which helps you get it accurate. Mm-hmm. So you don't really notice that shape unless you were trying to draw it. So I think that exercised my mind of noticing. Then later on, doing the comedy, I was already noticing, but I think was noticing just some people are very aware of what's around. And like in the tower and at the airport where the radar goes like this, like it goes like this, like, mm-hmm. and then there's the little beeps of the planes, like those mm-hmm. are the planes. So I think my mind got like scanning like that, subconscious. Like I'm not going out. I don't walk down the street thinking I need another joke. I'm gonna go walk down that street. I'm just going around my day, just doing it. But the thing is going.
Right.
And then it'll see a word. It's like. Oh, maybe that. Oh, okay. And then like write it down. And I think of the joke. The wording comes pretty fast, like like in a minute. It's like, because in my mind it can only be one way it can be written, and then I just would write it down and then go on with what I was doing. But the noticing never stops. Don't you think what you do is you're reacting, right? You're talking about the world, but you have to really see the world.
Yeah, you have to really see the world.
Top quality. You can't get better than those guys.
You can't get better than those guys.
And really laugh out loud.
I think ever. I think ever. Of all my years of comedy. I mean, it's hard now because you go back and watch it now. It's like you got to realize it's a totally different time in the world. It's not our culture. It's a different culture. It's the culture of 1980s. Things were more risque. They're more like when you said things, they were more shocking. And a lot of that stuff's already been said so many times now that if you go back and listen to it, it's like some of it doesn't really hold up the same way. But for the time, in those days, those guys were the cream of the crop. And if you had to follow them in Boston, like, good fucking luck. Because I don't think anybody ever killed harder.
Those guys, I didn't want to go on after them. I did because I was proud of the lineup. But I knew that the sound from the audience of the laughs, I knew it was gonna be more than me, but I just accepted it because it was like wave, when a big wave hits.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
All of those guys.
Yeah.
Gavin, Sweeney, Donovan.
Did you feel any pressure to sort of ever to change your act in the beginning before you made it? Was it like, were you just committed to that kind of style?
I was, committed means a decision. There was no decision. It was like I told you, that's how I wrote it, and it came out like that. It meshed with how I speak. This is how I speak, and for some reason, accidentally, the abstract jokes went good with my voice. But the audience, they weren't thrown off from it. People ask me, well, it was different. Would the audience take a while to come around? And they didn't, because right from the first 3 minutes, they laughed at some of it, and they didn't laugh at other things. So then I knew right then it wasn't how I was saying it or my voice or anything. They don't care about anything. They don't give a shit as long as it's funny.
Yeah.
So they thought some of it was funny and some of it wasn't. And Mike McDonald helped me a lot because he saw me the first time, and I was naively disappointed because I didn't laugh at everything, which is insane, but that was being naive. And he said, look, take that material, he never did it before, take that set and take out the stuff that didn't work and put other stuff in that works. I mean, to try out. And when I left, from him telling me that, I thought it was a success because they laughed at some of it. Here I am wanting to, 16, wanting to try it, and then they laughed at a minute and a half. Oh my God, they laughed at. So then he made me leave. When I left, I was like, oh my God, I gotta keep changing it. But I didn't think of changing my style or anything because, like I was saying, a fingerprint before, it was just what it was. It didn't even enter my mind to change it.
Yeah.
Some of it worked, some of it didn't. Change it, try more. And I'm glad there wasn't any show business there because someone might have said, you can't be mumbling over on the side. Get a sport jacket and talk loud. You know what I mean? There was no one watching from that angle.
Right, like a producer.
And all of those guys that we were just talking about, none of them are like the next guy.
Right.
It was like a factory that only made one car, and then they made a different car.
Yeah.
It was like a Mustang, then this. There was no assembly line.
Yeah.
Every one of those guys is completely unique.
Everyone. Yeah. It's one of the interesting things about the documentary when Stand Up stood out was that you were kind of the first guy that got discovered in Boston, and then you took off, and then it became a different thing because then people realized that was possible, and so then there was in the documentary at least there was this attitude where a lot of guys had like, hey, what about me? Like, where's my thing? How come it's not happening for me? I'm a headliner. I'm a this. I'm a that. Like, why isn't this? And it became where a lot of guys were trying to make it now. Do you remember that time?
I knew later when I heard about it after I had gone. But we all wanted to go on the TV. That everyone wasn't doing it just to be doing it in Boston. I wanted to someday go on TV. I had no idea how I would get there. And then I got a lucky break because Peter LaSalle came to Boston and he saw me in the club. Because there was an article about the Ding Ho, a freelance writer wrote about it and went into the L.A. Times, this weird comedy club, Chinese restaurant. And then he read it, and then he went back east looking at colleges for his kids were getting out of high school. They did a summer trip to Boston and New York to look at schools, and he remembered the article, and he called up the club. I'm going to go in, and then he saw me, and then I went on there. So I got a very lucky break. But I know you're talking about I was just insanely lucky, and then. But that's Fran's movie. He never even made a movie before.
Right.
He never made a movie.
I know.
And that was a very interesting thing because, say we were all rowers. Like, a row guy is not going to make a movie. He's not, but a comedian, a creative guy, he's going to make a movie about the time. You don't have a movie of your time in high school or your best time in college. We have a document by one of our own guys of the time.
Yeah.
And it's still, all of us, one of our favorite times in our whole lives. So it's a precious gift that Fran made the movie to see